Hey listeners, this is Ajay Tambe, the producer host of CreateYourEars.in podcast, and this is new update. We are coming up with new audio drama, Prisoner's Daughter, on 22nd May 2022. So make sure you subscribe and follow us on Instagram, subscribe to the show, and here you go to your story that you're listening. But The Prisoner's Daughter on 22nd May, the audio drama is going to release. Stay tuned, stay connected, and subscribe. Thank you.
Hey everyone, welcome to Canterville Chase. Welcome to the Canterville Coast, Chapter 3. The next morning, when the Otis family met at breakfast, they discussed the coast at some length. The United States minister was naturally a little annoyed to find that his present had not been accepted. No wish, he said, to do the ghost any personal injury. I have no wish to do any personal injury to him. And I must say that, considering the length of time he has been in the house, I don't think it is at all polite to throw pillows at him. A very just remark, at which I am sorry to say, the twins burst into shouts of laughter. Upon the other hand, he continued, if he really declines to use the rising sun lubricator, we shall have to take his chance from him. It would be quite impossible to sleep with such a noise going on outside the bedrooms. For the rest of the week, however, they were undisturbed. The only thing that excited any attention being the continual renewal of the blood stain on the library floor. The blood stain was there all the time. No matter how many times they rubbed it off, it came back. This certainly was very strange, as the door was always locked at night by Mr. Otis, and the windows kept closely bare. Chameleon-like color also of the stain excited a good deal of comment. Some mornings it was dull, almost Indian red. Then it would be vermilion, then a rich purple, and once they came down for family prayers, according to the simple rites of the Free American Reformed Episcopalian Church, they found it a bright emerald green. This kaleidoscopic changes naturally amused the party. Very much, and bets on the subject were freely made every evening. The only person who did not enter into the joke was little Virginia, who for some unexplained reason was always a good deal distressed at the sight of the bloodstain, and very nearly cried the morning it was emerald green. The second appearance of the ghost was on Sunday night. Shortly after they had gone to bed, they were suddenly alarmed by fearful crash in the hall. Rushing downstairs, they found that a large suit of old armor had become detached from its stand and had fallen on the stone floor. While seated in a high black chair was the Canterville ghost, rubbing his knees with an expression of acute agony on his face. The twins, having brought their pea shooters with them, at once discharged 2 bullets on him, with that accuracy of aim which can only be attained by long and careful practice on a writing master, while the United States minister covered him with his revolver and called upon him, in accordance with Californian etiquette, to hold up his hands. The ghost started up with a wild shriek of rage and swept through them like a mist, extinguishing Washington Otis's candle as he passed, and so leaving them all in total darkness. On reaching the top of the staircase, he recovered himself and determined to give his celebrated peal of demonic laughter. This he had this he had on more than one occasion found extremely useful. It was said to have turned Lord Raker's wig grey in a single night, and certainly made 3 of Lady Canterville's French governesses give warning before their month was up. He accordingly laughed his most horrible laugh till the old vaulted roof rang and rang again. But hardly had the fearful echo died away when a door opened and Mrs. Otis came out in a light blue dressing gown. "I'm afraid you are away from well," she said, "and have brought you a little Dr. Dobell's tincture. If it is indigestion, you will find it most excellent remedy." The ghost glared at her in fury and began at once to make preparation of turning himself into a large black dog, an accomplishment of which he was justly renowned, and to which the family doctor always attributed the permanent idiocy of Lord Canterville's uncle, the Horn, Thomas Horton. The sound of approaching footsteps, however, made him hesitate in his fell purpose. So he contented himself with becoming faintly phosphorescent and vanished with a deep churchyard groan, just as the twins had come up to him. On reaching the room, he entirely broke down and became a prey to the most violent agitation. The vulgarity of the twins and the gross materialism of Mrs. Otis were naturally extremely annoying. But what really distressed him most was that he had been unable to wear the suit of mail. He had hoped that even modern Americans would be thrilled by the sight of spectre in armor, if for no more sensible reasons, at least out of respect for their natural poet, Longfellow, over whose graceful and attractive poetry he himself had whiled away many a weary hour when the Cantervilles were up in town. For some days after, he was extremely ill and hardly stirred out his room at all, except to keep the bloodstain in proper repair. However, by taking great care of himself, he recovered and resolved to make a third attempt to frighten the United States minister and his family. He selected Friday, August 17th for his appearance and spent most of the day in looking over his wardrobe, ultimately deciding in favor of a large salt hat with a red feather and winding sheet frilled at the wrists and neck and rusty dagger. Towards evening, a violent storm of rain came on, and the wind was so high that all the windows and doors in the old house shook and rattled. In fact, it was just such weather as he loved. His plan of action was this. He was to make his way quietly to Washington Otis's room, give at him from the foot of the bed, and stab himself 3 times in the throat to the sound of low music. He bore Washington a special grudge, being quite aware that it was he who was in the habit of removing the famous Canterville bloodstain by means of Parkinton's Paragon detergent. Having reduced the reckless and foolhardy youth to a condition of abject terror, he was then to proceed to the room occupied by the United States minister and his wife, and there to place a clammy hand on Mr. Otis's forehead while he hissed her trembling husband's ear the awful secret of the charnel house. With regard to little Virginia, he had not quite made up his mind. She had never insulted him in any way and was pretty and gentle. A few hollow groans from the wardrobe. he thought would be more than sufficient, or if that failed or weaker, he might grapple at a counterpane with palsy twitching fingers. As for the twins, he was quite determined to teach them a lesson. The first thing to be done was, of course, to sit upon their chests so as to produce the stifling sensation of nightmare. Then, as their beds were quite so close to each other, to stand between them in the form of a green, icy cold corpse, till they became paralyzed with fear, and finally to throw off the winding sheet and crawl round the room with white bleached bones and unrolling eyeball with the character of Dum Daniel or the suicide skeleton, role in which he had on more than one occasion produced a great effect, and which he considered quite equal to his famous part of Martin the Maniac or Masked Mystery.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde on CreateYourEars.in podcast. I'm really grateful that you have listened the full episode. If you love this show, if you love this episode, please subscribe to our show on Apple or any other platforms which you are really close to. Subscribe to your nearest platforms. We are on all podcast platforms, major Spotify, Apple, the major users. You can subscribe, follow, and also if you are an iOS device holder or you have an Apple podcast, please make sure you provide the ratings and the review. You can also connect with us on social media. We are by the name @podcast audios, @podcast audios on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Yep, that's it. If you love the show, please do subscribe. This is the host and producer, Ajay Tambe. Next episode will drop coming Sunday.